what's up? It's Balloon. Welcome back to my channel. Hi, how are ya? Happy Wednesday, and yes, I'm back with another video for you. Earlier on in the week on my community tab, I did say that I would be making a video about the whole Dave Chapelle Netflix special, where Dave Chapelle, the comedian, has been accused of transphobia. This whole thing is a big kind of topic. It's also a very sensitive topic in some areas, but it's something that's interesting. It's something that people have been talking about. I saw Blair White, for example, make a video on this topic. It's interesting, right? It's also something that I actually had a conversation with my younger brother about. He's 3 years younger than me, so he's in his early 30s, and he is heterosexual, straight male, you know. So I had a chat with him about the special earlier, and about how Dave Chapelle was getting backlash for allegedly being transphobic and everything like this. See, my brother's not really the kind of person who would normally talk about, you know, trans issues or anything, but we had a really interesting conversation about this earlier. Like I say, I've seen other YouTubers also talking about this, such as Blair White, so I really wanted to come and make a little video on it too, because I also went and did a little bit of research. I read some articles about Dave Chapelle's friend Daphne, who tragically took her own life after she stuck up for the comedian Dave Chapelle. She stuck up for him when he told jokes that people said were transphobic. His friend Daphne, longtime friend, had opened up at comedy shows for him. She was trans. She'd opened up at comedy shows for him, you know, going on first and all of that. She'd bombed at times, but she had a really great friendship with Dave Chapelle. So Dave Chapelle started getting backlash for some jokes that he told that the trans community then really took offence to. So the trans community really took offence, started labelling the comedian Dave Chapelle as transphobic, sent him a lot of hate. Then his friend Daphne, a trans woman, stood in and actually defended him.
So Dave Chappelle's comedy special was called The Closer, and what he did was he defined himself as a TERF, acronym meaning trans exclusionary radical feminist, defending the Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling, who of course J.K. Rowling, you're probably aware, has also been accused of transphobia, and saying gender is a fact. Every human being in this room, every human being on this earth had to pass through the legs of a woman to be on earth. Chappelle also discussed the cancellation of rapper DaBaby for his recent homophobic comments, remarking, "In our country, you can shoot a man, but you better not hurt a gay person's feelings." As a result of the Netflix special, Jacqueline Moore, a trans showrunner on the Netflix series Dear White People, announced that she would no longer work with the streaming giant as long as it continued promoting and profiting from transphobic content.
So some people who work with Netflix are also outraged about this Dave Chapelle special, The Closer, being allowed to stay on Netflix because it's so transphobic. Okay, so he told a few jokes that might have been a little bit poor taste toward the trans community, but Dave Chapelle's job is, he's a comedian, he is a stand-up comedian, he's there to make people laugh, you know, and someone is always going to be the butt of the joke when you're making people laugh. Now, I don't usually agree with things like using the trans community to get a laugh, but in the case of a stand-up comedian like Dave Chapelle, I don't think we can really say, you're not allowed to say that joke, you're not allowed to tell that joke. You know what I mean? It feels a little bit like policing comedy, censoring comedy. That's what it feels like to me. And just before you all get irate with me and tell me that I'm transphobic, you know, I'm somebody who identifies as non-binary, of course. I keep saying it, I have to keep saying it, because fucking people are stupid. But what I was going to say is, in this instance, Dave Chapelle, he's a comedian, he's been told off for doing his job, comedy, right? So take another example. Bianca Del Rio. Bianca Del Rio, drag queen, you know, of course from RuPaul's Drag Race. Gay man in a wig, up on stage, telling jokes, doing a comedy routine. Right? I have been sat in the audience at Bianca Del Rio shows quite a few times. I've been sat there in the audience when Bianca Del Rio has told a rape joke. And it was a really bad taste rape joke. And I'm a rape survivor. So I was the person who could have been very, very offended about Bianca's joke. So I sat there in the audience as that joke came out, and the whole audience around me was laughing. I felt a tiny little bit uncomfortable, but then I thought, fuck it, it's comedy. This is a man in a wig on stage telling jokes for a living. You know, this is their job. I couldn't be sensitive and break down and offended, you know. I mean, I could have got up and walked out of the theatre, but that's not what I did. I stayed there in my seat and I enjoyed the rest of the show. And I laughed my fucking arse off. And Bianca Del Rio now, Bianca is somebody who will tell jokes about Korean people, you know, or Japanese people. Bianca is crass. You know, that is her style of comedy. The same way that Dave Chapelle, his style of comedy is also quite crass. But there are people who enjoy this type of comedy. Does it mean it should be banned because somebody makes a bad taste joke? No, I don't think it does. You know, we've just seen Shane Dawson deleting a lot of views off of his YouTube channel. Things that Shane may be considered poor taste or things that won't fly in this day and age, things that he might have got away with 10 or 15 years ago. Of course, the world has moved on and people are now much more woke and much more politicised, I would say, than they ever were. But I do think sometimes people are a little bit oversensitive. So when Daphne, Dave Chappelle's friend, stuck up for him, she received a lot of hate and a lot of backlash from the trans community. So after receiving all of that hate, all of that backlash, 6 days later, Daphne tragically took her own life. Now, we don't know. We can't say that the reason that Daphne took her own life was because of all the backlash that she got from the transgender community. But I bet it was a contributing factor. You know, and this is a very tricky, very sensitive and very kind of messed up situation. Because you've got Dave Chappelle, comedian and also a black man. So he's also a minority group, right? Then you've got Daphne, his friend, a trans woman. Then you've got the transgender community who have had a go at both Dave Chappelle and Daphne. And the result has been Daphne took her own life. Isn't that ironic? It really is. Sorry, I sounded like Alanis Morissette then. Isn't it ironic? No, we're not going to go there. I don't sing. No, not me. But it is the irony that the trans community forced a trans person to potentially take their own life because of online hate. It's definitely something to think about, and it's definitely something I find very interesting. But what I think it all really boils down to is people being overly sensitive because being trans is their identity. But my take on this is that trans is not your whole identity. Trans is a label. When you transition, you know, you're either male or female, or if you're non-binary, then you're non-binary, like me, you know, but trans is a label. It is not your whole identity. You're a whole person. You are not just trans. So to me, it seems the people who got really offended about this Netflix special, The Closer, are possibly the people who take being trans as their identity, and that is everything about them. You know what I mean? I hope this is coming across how I mean it too. What I'm trying to say is, it's like people maybe aren't that sure in their own identities. So if they're not sure in their own identities, what their characteristics are, what their qualities are, they stick to something, you know, they're trans. And I'm not saying that trans people are not valid, so please do not come for me, you know. But I'm saying that there's more to a person than being transgender. So someone is transgender, yes, and that's the label, transgender. But it's just that, it's just a label. It's not them as a person. It's not their qualities. It's not the fact that they do good things for other people. It's not about them being a good person or a bad person. It's just a label. And people have taken it and ran with it and got offended and called Dave Chapelle transphobic. And his friend Daphne, who knew him and knew that he wasn't transphobic, stood up for him and very, very tragically met her end. So I'm going to stop this video right here. I'm going to say take care, stay safe, stay well. I love you guys so much. However you identify, whoever you are, thank you so much for watching. Also, I want to say a quick happy birthday for yesterday to one of my regular subscribers. His name is Will, so happy birthday, Will. I hope you had a great day yesterday. Love you so much. Thank you for watching, guys. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one. Mwah. Bye-bye.